This is the Week in Sustainability from Workiva Carbon, formerly Sustain Life. It's where our team of experts and practitioners share weekly insights and commentary to keep you up to date about all things sustainability.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another This Week in Sustainability. I'm Arcadia Lee, your host, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Hassam El-Kadi. In today's episode, we're diving into some extreme weather happenings around the globe, which has been a clear signal of the changing climate and devastating effects from flooding. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what cities can do to try to avoid some of its impacts and adapt to climate change.
Yeah, so in the past couple of months, North America has been struck by a series of severe flooding events, highlighting the growing vulnerability to climate-induced disasters. So in July of 2024, Toronto and Southern Ontario, Canada experienced unprecedented flash floods, resulting in over 940 million Canadian dollars in insured damages. The Insurance Bureau of Canada, the IBC, has called for urgent action, including the development of a national flood insurance program and upgrades the aging stormwater infrastructure. Soon after, in August 2024, Tropical Storm Debbie unleashed torrential rain spanning Georgia to New York, causing significant property and infrastructure damage. The storm disrupted communities, overwhelmed emergency services, and left countless residents grappling with this aftermath. And as recently as a few days ago, Mississauga, the second most populous city in Ontario, Canada, and the seventh across Canada, was also struck by unprecedented amounts of rain, causing significant damage to property and public infrastructure.
That's right. And as extreme weather events happen more frequently, people are asking how climate change is playing a role in all of this, right? Well, over a decade ago, scientists would have had a hard time answering that question. But today, there's an emerging type of research called attribution science that can determine not if climate change is actually causing the event, but if climate change made some events more severe and more likely to occur. And if so, by how much? It's a science that's been around since the early 2000s, but has recently gained more attention. Early studies were focused on individual events like the European heat wave of 2003, as well as Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And over time, attribution science has evolved and become a much more sophisticated body of research, with researchers now developing new methods and analyzing a wider range of extreme weather events. Today, it's established field with a growing body of research.
And that obviously has a huge implications for policy and preparedness. So if you can definitively say that climate change is making these events worse, it strengthens the case for both immediate and long-term action. On the ground, this means improving early warning systems, public education, and infrastructure. But on a global scale, it also means that we actually need to double down on efforts to mitigate climate change and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions.
Absolutely. The implications of attribution science are far reaching, right? Especially when we consider the economic costs associated with flooding, hurricanes, forest fires, and so many other climate related events.
Absolutely. And kind of as we continue to learn more about these connections, we must use this knowledge to drive meaningful change, right? So, for example, the recent flooding in the northeast of the United States and Toronto, Canada, has resulted in staggering economic losses. So, the floods have severely damaged public infrastructure, disrupted transportation, destroyed homes and businesses, and forced road and business closures that led economic disruption not just to the city of Toronto and kind of the northeast of the United States, but also neighboring cities. Also, as you can imagine, agricultural lands have been inundated, causing crop damage and livestock losses in this case as well.
Yeah. And you know what? I really think this demonstrates the importance of trying to assess those physical risks ahead of time, right? So that cities can have time to prepare. They can start implementing mitigation and adaptation plans. Like, for example, in New York City, they've started implementing coastal protection measures, such as building seawalls and sand dunes to mitigate the impacts of level rise. They've also started promoting more sustainable urban development practices, such as green building standards and mixed use zoning. Granted, there's still a lot more work that needs to be done, as flooding remains a very serious threat to public health, especially in New York City and other places worldwide.
Yeah, so Arcadia, as you mentioned, the strategies that different cities are taking, but we know we need to implement those strategies to combat climate risk. But how would a municipality identify which strategies to undertake? And that is kind of one of the tough questions to answer. And for that, this begins with conducting a climate risk assessment, which is essentially a comprehensive evaluation of how climate change might affect the city's infrastructure, natural resources, and the general public health. So again, this varies based on the geography, but typically in the US, tools like the Climate Resilience Toolkit and FEMA's HAZES are commonly used for modeling risks such as floods and hurricanes. Uh, North of the border in Canada, Climate Data Canada and the Public Infrastructure Engineering Vulnerability Committee Protocol, which is the PIEVC protocol, are key for assessing those infrastructure vulnerabilities. Uh, so the assessment process includes gathering localized climate data, scenario planning, and engaging stakeholders to prioritize and implement those adaptation strategies. So by leveraging all of these tools and methodologies, cities can actually develop robust long-term plans that integrate climate resilience into urban planning and policymaking in the future.
Thanks, Hassan. That's great. And for our listeners, if you're interested in learning more about how climate change impacts weather patterns worldwide, you can check out any of our previous episodes where we dive into this a little bit deeper. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Workiva Carbon provides organizations with an easy-to-use solution to manage the full life cycle of measuring, managing, and reporting carbon emissions. Now integrated into the same platform used to manage the world's most trusted financial and non-financial reporting. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show on our YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform. See you next week.